Hey everybody, this is Heather McIntosh again with MJCCLD, coming to you with the last video this week on virtual interview tips. And in today's specific video, we're going to be talking about body language during a virtual interview. So some of this would be similar advice that we would give for an in-person interview, but some of it will be a little different. So the first tip on body language in a virtual interview is eye contact. You want to make sure, similar to an in-person interview, to maintain good eye contact throughout your interview. And oftentimes nowadays, a lot of times you'll be interviewing with just more than one person, so it might be what we call a panel interview, where maybe there's 2, 3, or 4 people. And this is probably going to be similar with virtual interviews as well. So you might be interviewing and there might be split screens of 3 or 4 different people, or they might all be in the same room asking the questions. And if that's the case, what you should do is, for whoever asked the specific question, you want to give a little more eye contact to them and mostly answer to them, but you don't want to completely ignore the others in the room as well, or on the screen. So what you should do is make sure to give a little eye contact to everybody for every interview question asked. So you want to make sure to at least glance and acknowledge the others and pay a little more attention to the one who asked that specific question, because they're all interested equally in knowing the answer to those questions. They just kind of divvy up usually who's going to ask which ones. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, hand gestures. So as you've been able to probably tell in some of my videos and in this video, I do use my hands a lot. And a lot of people are like that. They just naturally are hand gesturers. And that's okay, but you do want to minimize that, specifically in a virtual interview, even more so than in an in-person interview. You want to, doing it once in a while, to emphasize something is okay, but you don't want to be doing this and that kind of stuff when you're answering all the different questions, because what's the theme for all these videos so far? Distraction. You want to make sure there's the least amount of distraction as possible. And you know what? When I'm moving my hands and waving them all around, that's kind of distracting. And I know that, so I wouldn't do that in a formal interview. And one little trick you could do if you are somebody who naturally gestures a lot with their hands and you're worried about doing that in an interview, you don't have to do this, of course, but one little trick I've learned is you could also sit on your hands. See, I'm gonna do it right now. So yeah, if you sit on your hands, and you never have to worry about accidentally gesturing a little too much and causing distraction. So that'd be a little trick for that. Okay, so number 3 is the nods and uh-huhs. And so some people like to do that a little more than others. I know some people who like to do uh-huh, uh-huh, mm-hmm, yeah, uh-huh, after every single question or every single statement that I make. And going with the theme here, that can be distracting. And also what I found is sometimes when somebody does the nod and the uh-huhs all the time, they tend to borderline cut me off. Sometimes I'll be saying something and they'll do the uh-huh before I'm done. For example, like, okay, so we'll probably give you a call next week. And it's like, okay, you cut me off a little. And I've noticed that sometimes that happens as well, but it's just overall a little distracting. Not to say you can never nod and say uh-huh, but keep in mind if you do that frequently and consistently throughout the interview, that could get a little distracting, so you want to minimize that as well. And the last tip would be just any other nervous habits that you might naturally have. For like instance, hair twirling, or pushing hair behind your ears, playing with your ear, playing with your jewelry, maybe picking at your nails, or in a virtual interview setting, if you're doing this, tapping your nails, they can hear that. That's very distracting. So any of those nervous little habits that you may have, you want to really keep those in mind with a virtual interview, because those can be very distracting for the interviewers. So this is Heather McIntosh again, coming to you with the last tip video this week for virtual interviews, but we're going to be coming to you with more videos soon related to LinkedIn profiles and graduate school. And so look forward to those soon. Have a great day.